So if you're following along in the model, we're at the base. So the next thing on the base is actually the printer board assembly. And basically, we've got, how many holes? 1, 2, 3 holes for the printer board. And we've got a switch that we're going to mount right here. Now this is temporary until you get, your case printed, if you want to do that. There's a X end stop standoff there. Where'd that little guy go? Right there. So we're going to tackle all of these. And printer board is the first thing that I call out. I always do this. The X motor and the Z motor are right there, and they were just right there ready for me to use in the with my wiring. But I didn't do it like an idiot. But the good news is we can do it now. All right, so this board is going to fall out. Easy enough to put back on. So right behind here you'll see that we've got a couple of really short motor wires. So one of them is a little bit longer because you got to reach up high, and one's a little bit shorter because it's already low. Those actually can just press down and go underneath. See how that works? Because we've got the X, which is here, and that can be plugged in right here. There's X, and there's enough wire to reach. This is Z, X, Y, Z. So, see how that works? I'm going to put this end first through the plastic without the standoff. Why? Because then I don't have to fiddle around with the stupid standoff. And now I've got room to work here. So, try to get you a better view. Okay. Got the bottom two done, and I've got the third one here for the top. Beautiful. So the next thing would be, after the printer board, the switch mount assembly. So that's just simply one. Let's see here, a couple things. First off, the switch does go in here. It'll just push and kind of lock in once you get it past a certain point. It's kind of hard. There it goes. It just snaps in. And again, you'll be replacing this eventually. So because you need to put it through that hole, we left these blade connectors. They're freaking strong. It's ridiculous, in fact. When you try to get those blade connectors off, you'll see what I'm talking about. But I take this little nut back, and then this can feed through, and so that barrel connector now that little nut will be able to, hold it in there. So you can get some needle nose or something and hold that nut and see if you can get that tight. It's a little challenging, actually. But with a set of needle nose, so that's your power. That's what's going to hook into the power, right? Hey, not all of my bots have had a power switch, and the $300 one gets one this time, so pretty cool. All right, so it doesn't matter which side that you put these on. It's just a switch, so it's going to connect the two. So I don't get too bothered about how that goes together. But again, if you push them all the way down, it's going to be hard to get back out. So this is, might as well do it. I'll push them all the way in. All right. So this actually is going to plug in here. And then this is going to mount right here. So you may do a little wire management to fold these around how you like them. What you want it to do is to be hidden by the case when you go to the case. So there's just one screw here. This was like the cheapest way for me to include a switch without having to worry about the case. I just designed a little part that the barrel connector on the case goes on the back. And it's pretty sturdy. So some of you that bought one of my kits without a switch will appreciate it. After switch mount is the X-in stuff. Okay, I'll do it in order. It's just as easy. So this is going to be a single screw holding this out like so. You can kind of see it there. So it's one of these little bitty plastites right in the end that go into the one screw, and that little ridge actually holds it in place because, you know, flat on flat. There we go. And now two of the plastites under here to hold this on. Okay, beautiful. So two 624s and a washer on bottom with a 16 M4 16 millimeter is your bearings here. Yeah. Then you can put your end stop above it. It's hard to explain how much time goes into all these little decisions that you make when you're designing. But it's a lot of time. Now, down to the last three bearings. We got our switch mount. We've got our bearings, our two X bearings. We've got our in-stop standoff. So now we're down to the X bearing assembly. Well, it's pretty straightforward. Two bearings in one side. You can kind of center them with your hand, and one bearing in the other side. Now I like to push this one down where the screw pattern is on center, like it is with the other ones. And I think it's going to be very helpful. In fact, I'm going to take these out so that they're aligned when I put them in, if that makes any sense. You see what I mean? So now they're perfectly aligned. This one doesn't matter so much because it's going to push down flat. It's going to follow, you know, the bed. So they go like this. And again with the plastites. But I think we'll be doing good just to get one to kind of help us align the rest of them. So that's not super tight, but it's tight enough for me to align the holes on the rest of them. There, now I can see daylight through all of them. Now these will, there is a chance that you could strip these. Oh, I see what we did. So anyway, while plastites aren't supposed to strip, you don't want to test it, you know what I mean? So just be kind to your, by not over tightening, because you'll be frustrated. If you strip something out, then you got to print another one. Some of these prints take a while. So I had 2 on the bottom, or the top bearing, whichever way you're looking at it. And there's a set of 4. All right. So those are in there now. Why did I get a bad bearing? I believe because I do multiple builds over and over, but I'm not going to make any excuses. If the bearing that you have is bad, let us know. We'll replace it. But if you're gentle with them, unlike I have been, sounds so much better. Yeah. All right, so we'll get this back together. Very good. Now on this side, we will do a similar tie-off that we do like we did on that that belt. So you can put a piece of, let's see what you used here. You can put a little piece of filament on it, just like we did earlier. And that acts as your pin. And if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. You can do something else. But I think it's kind of an ingenious way to, you know, save some money, and it works. It's a little plastic pin. So I'm zip tying this off. You want the bulb of that going to the back. So the reason you want it to the back is it's a really tight tolerance between this bearing hole down. So you want the meat of that little nub pointing towards the back. And I think we'll get better results there. I may even give myself a couple of extra millimeters with that belt. There we go. Okay. Trim this filament a little bit. Yeah. Check the movement. Yeah, that's what we wanted. All right, so we need one more belt tensioner. Here it is. And it works the same way as the other one. I'm going to go through the middle and then try to get a feel for like where it's going to land with my, what looks like, I don't know what sizes are, 16s? Hopefully that's right. There we go. So another piece of filament. Oh, I got a little one here. try this. Very good. Yes, it's working out well. Now I've got my M3 nuts that I'm going to put in so I can tension this. A little bit of an awkward deal because I'm trying to hold those nuts in at the same time. Okay, that side's got it. Come on. There. Now what I did though is I popped it off its bearing, so now I got to pop it back on its bearing. Kind of like a bike chain though. There you go. So that's good. It's moving good. And now the print bed. So I'm trying to see if there's a, no, it looks identical all the way around, so just some of these plastites and we're good to go. Now, why are there so many extra parts? Well, I'll talk about that in just a second. We wanted a kit that was easy to update, easy to upgrade. Why? Because we want you to spend more money here. No, because, you know, not everybody wants the same thing. So some of you guys are happy with, you might be happy with a smaller, you know, smaller build area. And some of you will want a larger build area. So we threw in some hardware. These plastites are not common. I mean, you can buy them on McMaster Car, of course, and you know they kind of look like sheet metal screws. And you could probably find stuff that works, but we wanted to give you the exact screws that we use, you know, and we designed for. So we put in a few extra for different things, and I'll show you. Well, one's the handle. So if you mount a handle like this, there's two screws here and here to mount the handle. These other two screws are actually for the off-the-shelf simple spool holder. So if you want to put a simple spool holder on it. Now, you know, some people might not want to do that because they're using big spools and it'll tip it over. But there you go. Beautiful. Everything's working now. So that is the build minus the feet. So I'm going to grab some of the old style feet that I had, and then I'll plug in the wires and we'll be done. All right. So these are not the right feet, but they're the feet for this older design, and I want it to sit straight while I do the wiring. So I'm not asking you to watch this part. All right, now it sits on its own feet. So just let me give you a couple of, let's see, what's the best place for this? All right, so there are some printed parts that aren't here. Like I mentioned, the handle, 2 screws for the handle. Here, 2 screws for the, you know, the filament spool holder. Down here, there's 2 screws here and the one that you used here, so that's 3 to hold the printed case. So the printed case is 1, 2, 3 holes, and you switch out your switch to go into there. And then on the back, there's actually 1, 2 little plastites, and the barrel connector goes there. So you'll need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plastites for that one. And over here, it's 2 small, this printed plate, 2 small button head screws that are included there as well. Now, the wiring. Well, first off, we know that this little guy is the X end stop. So where is it? Right there. So that's an easy one. This end stop is obviously not Z, it is Y. So there you go. So we got a couple other motors. We got our fan, our hot end power, and our thermistor. So now we get to use our zip ties. So let's plug everything in right up here to see where it's going to fall. There's our fan, and it is a different, oops, there you go. The fan and the hot end power are the same wire colors, black and red, but it's a different connector, so you shouldn't get confused there. Now, like I said earlier, there's a little zip tie right here, this little kind of rectangular hole. And I put that there so that we can have the motors actually, you know, I don't want to carry the weight of this main, you know, wire bundle on this wire. It'll come unplugged or it'll fatigue. So we want to put the weight of it to be held by the zip tie and the metal. So what I like to do is get it a little bit tight and arrange the wires kind of how you like them. Check them for, you know, is this going to work, this length. You might have to tug on some or give some extra room or something. But when you're happy, tighten those down. And the other thing I like is it kind of puts this up like this, you know what I mean? So it's going to work out nice. Now the other motor wire is the last one here, but the reason I'm hesitating on wiring these, or at least I should have, is we've got 2 pieces of braided, I think there's 2 pieces here. 2 pieces of braided wire wrap, and I'm trying to remember which is the longer one. Looks like the long one is first. So a little bit awkward to get this wire wrap all done, but you know you got to kind of pull on that so it expands properly. But it's kind of wild, this stuff. You can push wire through, and when you push, it's like one of those Chinese finger traps I used to play with back in, you know, when you pull, it gets tighter, but when you push, it gets looser. So I'm pushing all these ends into the wire wrap, so it's a little bit awkward. Just kind of got to fish it down a little bit, like so. It's one of those things, you gotta keep fiddling with it until you get it all through. Come on, there it goes. So once you break through with the first piece, it gets a lot easier. Man, talk about gory details. You guys are getting every last little bit. Now sometimes I've done builds where, you know, I leave parts out and say, oh, I'm going to do that later, and then I never do. I wanted to get all the way through the wiring on this one. Come on. There we go. Yeah. Did I get all of it? Yes. So what I'm doing here is allowing it to go all the way. Now you could replace that and just have one zip tie on the end, but I'm going to be a little bit lazy, and I'm going to put the zip tie that holds the end of the braided wire as a second one, because you do want to hold that. All right, now these two wires are going to be joining us, the end stop for the Y and the Y motor. Now, just to keep the end stop from just misbehaving, I'm going to just put this on here real quick. Okay. I just want that to hold for me. Now, when it joins, I can tie this off, zip tie this off, and you got plenty of, well, you should have plenty of room. There. You have plenty of room there to reach. By the way, I haven't put my limiting screw in. I forgot. That one, what is that, 16? There's a hole right here. So that one M316 screw, if you put it in there, then it'll stop right where the end stop, or the hot end needs to stop. The reason I put that in now is I wanted to see where, you know, my wiring was. So I can actually zip tie that there as a holder to all of, it's going to hold all this wire together. And again, it'll just be temporary, because I can adjust this a little bit later. All right, so now I can put my other shorter braid on there, and it'll look really, really good all the way down to the very end. So here we go again, fighting this stuff. There we go. All right, so how you do it is on this, now we'll be able to put one zip tie around both braided cables, braided cable wrap, and it'll hold them together and keep it from fraying as well. So now that you have one around here, you could cut this one completely off, and you actually could cut this one completely off. But for now, I think I'll just cut one of these off. Well, you know what? I'm going to cut both off. The less zip ties, the better in my book. Now, we are developing a little printed piece that's going to hold this steady, because I don't like it, like I said with that one, I don't like that we don't have a tie off. So we're going to have a tie off that's right in here to take the weight off of that cable. So stand by for that. And this is nice and straight, so we can start plugging everything in. Now, a little bit of this is going to be deduction, and some of it will be obvious. So we've only got two motors. Now, I should have checked which was which, but let's see, one, and they're right on the money. Here, just to be careful and sure, I'll let you see how I determine. So I'm going to pull on this one. It's clearly, the Y motor is clearly this one. So now I got to redo my braided. But let me put that Y motor in there. I'm needing to kind of move my motor wire out of the way, which is just pushing it. What was this one? Okay, so I got the Y motor on. That means the only motor that's left is the E. And again, I'm going to push this other motor out of the way, motor wire. So all my motors are plugged in. All right, so I just finished the Smalls build, and they look pretty similar, don't they? So the two things that are different are, well, three, I guess. Number one, this one doesn't have the handle yet because you're going to print this, and the files are available to you on the product page, or actually in the document that you can link to from the product page of all the files. Every piece of everything's in the file. But anyway, this is the other, I call it a beauty panel or just a cover panel. So that one you'll print yourself. This one doesn't have it. And then the big one back here is this electronics cover. And you'll swap out that little mount here for this cover. And so the hardware is included for you, the nuts or the screws, to put all of these extra panels on. And there's actually 2 extra screws if you'd like to order a spool holder that fits on the simple. That whole pattern is there too. So anyway, we got it built. It looks good. For $300, not bad. It took me, and what I haven't told you is I'm a little under the weather, but it took 2.5 hours. I ran back and forth a couple times. Took my time and just did it right, except for the times that I did it wrong. And then I redid it right. Anyway, so you could expect probably less than 3 hours, maybe 2 hours. I think with the right tools and everything laid out, we could get it done faster. But who cares? We're having fun, right? So enjoy your Smalls build. And I don't want to hear any comments about the video is no good. I want you to go look at those files on Fusion 360 that we've offered, the A360 files. Those are your best bet. Like I said, it's entertainment. So enjoy. I wish you well. Happy printing.